Okay, Any Price came out in 2012. It stars Dennis Quaid, Clancy Brown, Zac Efron, Heather Graham is in this film. A few other noticeable faces in smaller roles. It's a well-made, well-crafted film. It looks good. Good performances. Clancy Brown is who's normally known as this tough, stoic dude. Um, really gives this heartbreaking scene. Really good performance there. Dennis Quaid does a great job as always. But it's a film where Dennis Quaid is he's a farmer and he sells seeds. He's a salesman. He sells seeds to other farmers, and his top competitor is Clancy Brown, who's the bigger honcho of selling seeds. It's kind of the problem with the film. Um, that's your storyline. You got these two guys they sell corn seeds to farmers in Iowa. Their sons, who are very similar guys, um, are in competition with each other for everything. They both drive race cars. I mean, the same girl, basically same guy, but they have very defensive and very respectful of their fathers. So one guy talks shit about the other guy's dad. The other guy's gonna kick his ass. They fight several times. And then Dennis Quaid has a loving wife. He has 3 kids. One of the kids is overseas climbing a mountain in the Andes. But they're now, they've grown up and they're adults. They're in their early 20s and they're moving on to the rest of their lives. And as you find out, Dennis Quaid I don't know the particulars, but he's illegally selling genetically modified seeds. He's cleaning them and reselling them, which violates his contract with the seed company, and it can get him in a lot of trouble. I don't know the details on that, but he could lose everything. Lose his career, lose his home, all kinds of stuff if he gets found out. The seed companies, has reported him, and the seed companies hired 2 investigators to follow him and find out if he's breaking the rules. Um, and that's really the crux of the story. Now, Zac Efron's character, who's Dennis Quaid's son, wants to become a race car driver, and he's racing up. It's supposed to be in Illinois, but it's actually, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be in Iowa, but it's actually shot at Sycamore Speedway, Northern Illinois. It's right by Maple Park, Illinois. And he gets his crack at NASCAR, blows it, tries to kill himself, basically. Um, and his dad, so the crux of the story is Dennis Quaid, his whole family situation, his whole career, it's collapsing in his hands, and he's desperately trying to keep everything together and keep everybody happy, which ain't really possible. I don't want to spoil the key thing that happens in the film. Somebody gets killed, and this is at the most inopportune moment, and so there's really no way to explain it without spoiling it, which I don't want to do. But that sets everything off in this completely different trajectory, and Dennis Quaid basically has to learn to accept that his kids are moving on, deal with what this death that has happened, and be a better person. And so at the very beginning of the film, he's at a funeral at the cemetery for this old farmer who's passed away, who he knows from experience their adult kids don't want the farmland. But instead of waiting 2 weeks later, like the adult kids live in, let's say, Arizona or something, they don't want to live in Iowa. They don't want to deal with the farmland. It's a common thing. He knows this from experience. So he shows up at the funeral to make an offer to buy the land. And the son curses him out, and then they're sitting in the car, and his son is like, "You're an asshole, Dad." And then a guy comes around the corner and says, "I'm selling at $8,000 an acre. I don't want to deal with it." Dennis Quaid knew that. The guy knew that, but he didn't want to accept a sales pitch at his dad's funeral at the cemetery. Understandably so. So he's a guy who Dennis Quaid, he's not a bad guy. He's not a horrible villain, but he's willing to push the line of ethics to get what he wants. And then he justifies it with, this 200 acres I just bought is, your brother's gonna run that, and that's his coming home gift. And then his brother doesn't come home, and then there's this whole thing about how everybody has friction with this guy because he's not a monster, but he does some sketchy shit. He's willing to bend the rules a bit to make more money and be successful and all these kind of things, and that puts him at odds with everybody he knows. But he learns his lesson. So, well crafted, well shot film, good performances. I've heard critics question a little bit about how people say things or something. No, it's accurate. Like, so it's as I sit here, it was shot over. Where's my hand? It was shot over there. There's scenes that were shot out there. So it's the way people dress. It's the way people talk. There's character after character in this film. It's like, I know a guy just like that. There's a dude in this film who, one of Clancy Brown's oldest son, my cousin looks just like my cousin 10 years ago when he's a little younger, when the film came out. The relationship between the dad and the sons, I've seen that 100 times. I've gone through some of that ish, with like that scene at the cemetery. I've been there with my dad and shit like that when he would do stuff like that. Just making me uncomfortable, dude. I love you, but come on, bro. So goddamn, can I relate? It's just not. It's a bunch of old farmers selling corn. There's a death that happens in the film. There's some clever writing, good performance, all that stuff. It's just like, it's a bunch of farmers selling corn. And it was shot at Sycamore Speedway. He's called Bob Joe. I've been there. So it's interesting. I did a video on this before. There's a scene in the diner towards the end of the film. Clancy Brown is bawling his eyes out. He's giving a great performance. Dennis Quaid is sitting here. Clancy Brown is sitting right next to him. I've sat where Dennis Quaid is sitting in that diner. It's the junction in the Kelvin Lincoln Highway. I went to school with the guys who used to own it. There's stuff shot in Rochelle, which is, can't see me that way. I'm surrounded by where they shot this movie, and I've stood in those spots. It's a trip, man. But if they didn't shoot it here, I don't know that I'd really care for it that much. It's just a slow-paced, who gives a shit about corn, but it's well crafted, well written, well acted. So I gotta respect it. It's just not an enthralling film. Dennis Quaid does a good job. He sells the type of people you'll find around here very well as an actor. I know plenty of guys like him. I know plenty of farmers just like him. There's one scene where he's sitting there having breakfast and he won't sit down. He's standing up eating. It's like, dude, I know farmers just like this dude. But if you're not from here, there's no real reason to give a shit about this movie. And I'm from here and I still haven't watched the whole thing. So, At Any Price came out in 2012. Well directed, well crafted. It's a good looking film. Dennis Quaid and now I can't. Man, there's only so much space in my brain. The other Clancy Brown, Dennis Quaid, Clancy Brown, good performances. Zac Efron gives a good performance. Heather Graham is in this. Everybody's doing a fine job at their job. The story just isn't that horribly engaging. It's not exciting. An exciting movie. Try as they might. Again, growing up here, this is not an exciting place, and you can't make it exciting unless you were to do zombies or something. But anyway, so At Any Price, check it out. It's worth it, but don't walk in, expecting to get your heart pumping in this film, because you're not. So, White Guy Show, I'm Whitey. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. I do retro video game reviews, movie reviews, retro gameplay. I'll be getting on that stuff. And I'm just trying to stretch this out to 10 minutes. I'm trying to think of anything else to say about that film. But I can't without giving it the thing that makes the film. I would ruin the film if I told you about it. So you're gonna have to see that. But good film. There I am. I'm at 10 minutes. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.